All right, everyone, we're going to move on to the next part of our virtual conference, and we're looking forward to hearing from Chris Keefer, the Southeast Technical Service Manager for Syngenta Professional Pest Management. In this role, Chris is responsible for providing technical support to sales and marketing in an 11-state territory that stretches from North Carolina to Florida and west to Texas. Chris previously was a graduate student, assistant research scientist in urban entomology at Texas A&M University. He also served as staff entomologist at ABC Pest and Lawn Services, College Station, Texas, and as a technician at Aggie Land Pest Control. Chris holds a master's and doctorate degree in entomology, both from Texas A&M University. Chris?
Thanks for the introduction. Sorry for the few seconds there, the lag. My computer's a little bit slow today, but just going to talk a little bit about some innovation at Syngenta. Tell you a little bit about who we are, the importance of the Insecticide Resistance Action Committee. We'll look at one of our newer cockroach baits, which happened to be Avion Trio. And I know Amaya touched on that during his presentation. So at Syngenta, we spend about $2 billion annually on research and development. We have over 500 R&D staff, and that is their whole job, to look for the next active ingredient. And then once we do that, send it through the pipeline through various steps to develop it into the end product, which PMPs would utilize. We are the world's largest crop chemical producer. We have 30,000 employees across 90 countries. And, when you think about developing a new AI, it costs us about $300 million plus to get that new active ingredient from the time it's discovered as a bench chemist, through 10 or 12 years of developing it, and then finally getting that product, manufactured, produced, and into the hands of the end user. So at Syngenta, it's not just about, developing a product, to get it out there. It's about looking at the future. It's about looking at regulatory. It's about looking at the needs of our end users. It's about looking at the environment and, really the future of society and how we can play a role in that to deliver the new next best active ingredient and get them in the appropriate formulations that we need for our end users to be successful, whether that's in public health with things like mosquitoes or even German cockroaches, or just, some of your other common pests that you may run into that aren't necessarily public health pests. And, it extends from there to weed control and disease control. And, there's other emerging opportunities as society continues to grow and cities continue to grow and people are moving out onto the land space of Earth that we don't maybe inhabit now, but that we're looking to inhabit. And so we really communicate with our end users and talk to them about what they need and what they see and what they want. And that helps us to get these products through the pipeline and get that product, the end product, to where it needs to be so that you can be successful. So these are some of the sites that we have for research and development across the entire world. We have some big sites at Gilletshill in the United Kingdom, Ghent in Belgium, Stein, Switzerland, Basel, Switzerland, and then Goa, India. And then in the United States, we have sites at RTP, which is in North Carolina. And then we have a professional solutions laboratory over in Vero Beach, Florida. So those are kind of the highlights there of some of the big facilities that we have across the globe where we are developing new products. So, I kind of talked about, what we do and how we go about and how we think about it. And the other part of that is it's got to be, a solution that's environmentally friendly per se, and even cost effective, not only for the end user, but you applying it, but for you to be able to do that service at someone's house and to be able to charge them, a reasonable amount of money. And so, we try to address all these challenges when those active ingredients are in that 10-year or 12-year pipeline, whether it's looking at insecticides or plant diseases. We're always looking for new novel modes of action, and we'll kind of touch on that when we look at IRAC, and bringing those new tools all together to formulate into one desirable end-use product. So, research and development, Syngenta, like all the other chemical manufacturers, we're crop driven, right? And so that's where everything starts. 90% of the gross income for Syngenta is crop. And so, professional solutions makes up a small part of that. And these are kind of the top 9 areas where we focus our research and development. You can see professional solutions as one of those 9 areas. So within professional solutions, that encompasses a lot more than just urban pest management. We're also looking at weed control, fungal control, insect control, and even nematode control. And these all encompasses, lawn and ornamentals, golf courses, residential pest control, commercial pest control, and a few other areas that we're focusing on a daily basis. So, it's important for us to, look at all kinds of different compounds. When you think about a bench chemist, their whole lifetime of being a bench chemist, they may look at, hundreds of thousands of compounds over time. And, they're lucky if they find one and are able to harness that, and that ends up making it to, to the market. So they spend a lot of time going through libraries of old products or old active ingredients, not necessarily products, but active ingredients, and then discovering new products. So when you think about that, in an annual, in a year, we may look at 100,000 compounds, and 5,000 of those 100,000 will make it to the next step. And then after step 2, only about 30 make it. And then one, we're lucky if we launch one product per year. And like I said earlier, the cost of that is about $300 million, about 10 years. And then there's that uncertainty, right? Is the industry going to embrace the new AI or the new product? And then we make all the right decisions to get that out to you in the right fashion. And that's really multiple teams, thousands of people, multifunctional teams, as it's listed there, that helps to get some of these, to get all of these products to where they need to be, so that we can all be successful in the end. So one of the other things I wanted to touch on is that we need to be good stewards of the industry, and so that comes with thinking about society and how these products may end up in society, in residences, in restaurants, and whatnot. And so a big part of that is sustainability at the core of the product development. So how do we make this cost efficient? How do we get this wrapped around in integrated pest management? How do we, utilize these things in human and environmental safety? What's the potency of this AI? Is the concentration too high, or is it too low, or is it just right? We're always looking for new modes of action in urban pest management, especially when you start to think about resistance. And then mainly looking at things, are they broad spectrum, or are they very precise, precision active ingredients, where they're only effective against, one species, as opposed to being effective against 10 or 12 or 15 or 30. How does climate play a role into these products when we get them? And when we, these active ingredients, do they leach? Do they not leach? And how does water affect them? How does sunlight affect them? All these different things that we have to take into account before these products ever get to where you have access to them. So part of that is, looking at how broad spectrum they are, and then is it a precision application, or is it more broad spectrum application? So I talked about the Insecticide Resistance Action Committee, and this is something we need to all kind of grab onto, so that we can be better stewards of the industry. And so IRAC is a wonderful organization, and if you can go to their website, irac.org, you can get a lot more information than what I would be able to share with you today. But the whole idea of it is to be stewards of the industry, and to utilize products, and then rotate those products, especially against groups of insects that have the potential to develop resistance. And so the example here is with German cockroaches, where you would use something like imamectin benzoate, which is categorized as group 6 by IRAC, and then rotate to something like indoxacarb, which is a group 22 designation by IRAC. Here's the IRAC poster. We all have posters in our offices, and there's lots of posters that we have about, maybe German cockroach biology or rodent ecology or things of that nature. I would say get this poster off the IRAC website. I think it's free to download. You can blow it up, laminate it, and put it on the wall with all your other posters. And technicians, eventually will start to walk by these posters day after day after day. They'll kind of stop to read, and they'll start to understand. And then you start to have, your small talk sessions in your office, your training sessions, and talk about these things, so that folks will better understand what it means to be a true steward of the industry. So I wanted to touch on a new product that we recently launched here at Syngenta, Advion Trio. And I know Amaya just talked to you a little bit about it, but it's got the 3 active ingredients: indoxacarb, novaluron and pyriproxyfen, two IGRs, a chitin synthesis inhibitor, and a juvenile hormone mimic. And you'll see that there's three different IRAC designations right there, 22A, 15, and 7C. Signal word of caution. And then the label for Advion Trio is kind of your standard cockroach label. You'll see that you would see anywhere else for any of the other common cockroach gel baits out there on the market. We're really excited about it because it's one of the few cockroach gel baits out there with IGRs. And, you know, it's really highly attractive, as you all know. If you've used Advion Evolution or OptiGuard cockroach gel bait, a lot of the inert ingredients in our cockroach gel baits are different to prevent aversion. And so we have complex sugars in there and lipids and proteins to help offset that aversion that may happen sometimes. And then with the three active ingredients in there, it's really helping to manage resistance in cockroach populations as well. And IGRs tend to, when you get them into a population, they're much active at lower concentrations than, say, some of our other active ingredients. And so they'll last a lot longer within that population at concentrations and at lower concentrations. And that's what gives you that long-term control. And so by adding this product to our portfolio, we really feel like it helps us to complete that robust rotation project or program, which we just talked about. So we've all seen, you know, that cockroaches notoriously can transfer baits or move baits through coprophagy, necrophagy, and emetophagy. We've got those all listed right here, and that really helps to control large populations. When the adults, males, and non-gravid females go out, feed on a gel bait, they come back, they either get sick or they start to let go of some of the active ingredient through their mouth or anus, and then the first instar nymphs will come in and eat that, and that's how you can get quick control. There's several papers out there that discuss the horizontal transfer of baits. This is one that came out of Purdue several years ago, which talks about indoxacarb, and it mentions secondary and tertiary mortality of German cockroaches after consumption of indoxacarb. I wanted to talk to you real quick about a trial that Kobe Schal did at North Carolina State University, and this goes back to Advion Trio. So we already discussed the three active ingredients within that bait. And the technical questions that we had are, what is the effect of each AI separately? And what is the effect of the bait in its formulated state? And then to compare the individual AIs to the three AIs combined as Advion Trio. So this was just kind of some baseline information that we wanted to get. So we used the Orlando strain of cockroach, which is insecticide susceptible. You can see the treatments listed there, all the way down to the control, which is treatment 5, which is just the Trio bait matrix with none of the active ingredients. And we looked at males, females, and nymphs in this trial, and there were 5 replications per treatment. So we all know indoxacarb is highly effective at killing German cockroaches, and we saw 100% mortality of adults and nymphs by day 2. And then, you know, we kind of wanted to tell what happens with the IGRs. And so with pyriproxyfen, no nymphs molted to adults in this 35-day trial. And there was mortality observed with smaller instars, so the first and second instars. And then we saw large numbers of highly melanized nymphs and adultoids. So that tells us that the IGRs were getting into that population and having an effect. As far as novaluron, the chitin synthesis inhibitor, there was 100% mortality of first instars. And by day 13, there was 100% mortality of all the late instars. Day 18, no adults emerged over the course of the 35-day assay. And then pyriproxyfen also caused egg deformations, and none of those eggs hatched. So that's critical in really containing these very large populations. And then with the novaluron, it caused the females to abort those egg cases, the ootheca, and none of the eggs ever hatched out of any of those ootheca. So really tells you what is going on with not only the key active ingredient with indoxacarb, but both of the IGRs and pyriproxyfen and novaluron. So what's the big, you know, take-home message out of this? Well, Trio is very effective in long-term control for large cockroach populations, especially when you get into situations where maybe you don't know the history of insecticide use, or you don't know the true density of that population. We see this as being a clean out product. for those initial services, maybe in multifamily housing or even in large commercial kitchens, or maybe you do know it's a very dense population. We feel like Trio could be very helpful for you in controlling these types of populations. I know Amaya just kind of touched on this trial with the Advion Trio and the field trial in New Albany, Indiana, that he performed at Purdue. And so he probably went through the objectives, and they're all listed right there again. But just real quick, we wanted to see if Trio provided more than 90% reduction of cockroach populations within 30 days. And then we wanted to see the effect, if there was kind of this synergist effect of adding Advion Microflow to the bait program alongside Advion Trio. So they were applied at the same on the same day, if you will, and then to look at rotation of the different products in our portfolio. So the Advion Trio with and without Advion Microflow. We looked at, we had two separate treatments groups here. We had time 0 where we took the pre-treatment counts, and then we assigned to the treatments. And so you can see that the Advion Trio was applied, and then we rotated to OptiGuard Cockroach Gel and Advion Microflow. Those units had an average of 87 cockroaches per unit. There were 12 units in that test group. And then the Advion Trio plus OptiGuard, there was a mean of 122 cockroaches in that group, and there were 11 units included in that study group. And then statistically, there were no differences between the two groups, or the two treatment groups. And as always, just like when PMPs go out to treat an apartment complex, we didn't get into all the units. Not all the tenants agreed to be in the study. And so, the treatments were spotty throughout the buildings, but we felt like we had enough units and a good mean population to do the trial. So when you look at how we went about in applying baits and when we apply the baits, again, if you look at this on the left-hand column, the week, -1 would be the pre-treatment count. So there's no bait applications, but we did some population monitoring, obviously. Then at time 0, we applied baits and we did not do any monitoring. And then weeks 1 through 22, there was bait applied, especially up front in the first few weeks. And then the bait usage kind of tailored off. And then we certainly monitored those populations during that entire time, weeks 1 through 22. But at weeks 26 through 46, there was no bait applications, but we continued to monitor those populations because we wanted to see if there would be any long-term effects of the Advion Trio on these populations. We didn't ask the tenants to do anything, no cleaning, no nothing. We just asked them if we could have access at certain time intervals. And you can see that we dealt with some unsanitary conditions, which is unfortunately what we see lots of times in different units that we all go into on a regular basis. Populations were super dense. As you can see here, we baited the back of this oven right here, and before we could move away, the cockroaches were already feeding on the gel bait. And then you can see all the fecal material on the floor underneath the oven when we pulled it out.
Hi, Chris. I apologize for the interruption here, but we really need to keep on track with time. If you could wrap things up in just a minute or so, appreciate it.
Yeah, so the key takeaway is that these are real world treatments that same thing that you would do when you went out into a multifamily housing project units. This Advion Trio supports the uses of gel baits in rotation. We saw the effects of the IGRs. Even after we stopped baiting, we baited months 1 through 5. At months 6 through 10, we continue to see a decline in the population. So that tells us that the active ingredient and IGR stayed in those populations. Great bait acceptance because we had the really fast knockdown. And then when we added the Advion Microflow, it had a synergist effect, and it's complemented the gel baits. And so it's important to have a good identification, know a little bit about your target pests that you're going after, understand IRAC and rotation, and be good stewards of the active ingredients out there. Advion Trio, we feel like, will help you move forward, especially in those types of situations that we talked about. We all know about doxcarb secondary and tertiary kill, and we had very positive results in the lab and in the field study. I want to thank PCT and everyone that is attending today.
Chris, thank you so much for sharing with us some of the different product offerings and resources from Syngenta.